India, very, very tough. Very, very tough. The prime minister just left. He's a great friend of mine, but I said, "You're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right." They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades.
Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on One India. The world woke up to tariff, and more tariffs. And this hasn't come as a surprise also. This was much anticipated. Donald Trump, US president, had not minced his words, clearly indicating that he has something on his mind. And when it comes to business, well, many say, even his fiercest critics would say that he means business. To discuss the salient features to discuss how it is going to impact not just India, but rest of the world also. We are joined by Robinder Nath Sachdev. He's a foreign affairs expert and needs no introduction, I would say, as far as the audiovisual medium is concerned. He's the president of the Image India Institute and co-founder and director of US-India Political Action Committee. Mr. Sachdev, thank you so much for speaking to One India.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. A pleasure and an honor to be with you and look forward to discussing a very interesting topic. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely, sir. When we talk about tariffs and when we talk about Donald Trump, many say that it could be a case of either over ambition or overreach. How do you see this barrage of retaliatory tariffs that have been imposed from the US side on the rest of the world?
In a big picture,
Mm-hmm.
tariffs, or if not tariffs, but unfair trade practices by other nations, wherein they charge higher duties on American imports and America charges them lesser on what they export, has been a lifelong pet complaint of Donald Trump ever since the 1970s. Even when he was a businessman, flirting with joining politics as governor or presidential runs or whatever, in all his interviews, which were pertaining to foreign policy or such, or business even, right? He was absolutely, speaking against Japan, saying that they're ripping us off. That was in the 1980s when Japanese cars were flooding the United States.
Right.
Then he was saying that the Arabs and the Arab sheikhs are living off our monies. I mean, we are storing their petrodollars, but we are giving them security. And so on and on. All his interviews you would see. So that has been a lifelong ideology for him. It's a belief that he has. And I think yesterday was a crowning moment of that belief for him. He achieved what is all his life he had been believing in and had the power to set that into motion. That's one. Now, why is he so much in favor of tariffs, other than the fact that this will balance out the unfair advantages which other countries take per him, right? Donald Trump and his advisors look at tariffs not only as import duties which are being fostered on foreign exporters and thereby leveling the American industry, but also as a means to raise revenue for the US Treasury, for the US government. See, essentially, what are tariffs? Tariffs are taxes, right? So effectively, what is happening is that whatever goods will come into America, okay, they will be an American importer company, they will have to pay the tax, or the supplier exporter from China, India will lower their cost a bit. The American importer will pay the duty, and then the importer will pass on that duty increased price to the American consumer. So in a way, it's taxing on the American consumer. But whatever it be, this money would be raised, and Trump's advisors have estimated approximately $6 trillion in the next 10 years. They will bring into the US Treasury through tariffs, now, which is a big chunk pile of money. Now, that money Trump intends he will use to lower taxes.
Domestic.
See, domestic, yeah. His political ideology as a conservative Republican, free markets and all is low taxes. So what he would be doing is that otherwise, if he did not have this pile of money, for example, for Trump to lower the taxes, they would need to issue fresh debt and again increase the American total budgetary deficit, which is running at about $37 to $40 trillion now. So he is looking at tariffs as a tool to be able to lower taxes in America.
I'm sure.
Other than,
yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure this is one of the many tools that he might have in his quiver to actually make America great again. And tariffs is one thing that, as a businessman too, you are right. Since 70s, he has been raising a bogey against it. I'm so sorry to have interrupted you in between, Mr. Sachdeva, but I just wanted to add one aspect of it, which concerns India and China, because one common factor, the Asian giants. Do you believe that Donald Trump also has some plan to, in a way, take on the Asian markets, especially China and India?
See, in this context, of course, I mean, see, now countries will react differently to these tariffs, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some countries like China are talking about putting retaliatory tariffs. Even the European Union is talking about retaliating. India is not talking about retaliating. That's one big difference between India's position and other countries' position. We are playing it much more calm and cool, and which I think is the right way to
Mm-hmm.
go along, and then we'll see, right? But that said, the other question is that over time, or like India is negotiating a bilateral deal, right? Similarly, China is negotiating a deal, and there will be a deal made between China and America. I'm
Mm-hmm.
reasonably sure of that. Now, when such a deal is made between India and America, would these 24%, which is on India, I think 24 or 26, right, will be lowered? I think it could be lowered somewhat, but not significantly. Same with China. The reason I think is that,
Mm-hmm.
once again, going back to their one end objective is to raise 6 trillion or $5 trillion over the next 10 years into the federal kitty, right? So if Trump now starts negotiating with India, with China, with Japan, lowering 2 percentage points down, 3 down here, 2 down here, etc., that will lower their total target which they're aiming at. So they will make, America will make, I think, adjustments, but will not be substantial. I don't think it'll be substantial adjustments, because then that will defeat, or that will not allow them to reach the cumulative figure which they are aiming at. So therefore, the tariffs which have been set out now for China, for India, would be revised over a period of time somewhat, but not substantially, I think.
Right. Mr. Sachdeva, just for the benefit of our viewers, a learned expert you are. When we talk about commodities, and for laymen like those who would be watching it in awe, saying what Donald Trump has done, he was holding a huge placard this morning, flashing all across the television screens globally. The things when we talk about tariff that impacts us is obviously cars, foreign-made cars, the U.S. cars, maybe motorcycles also, some consumables like American whiskeys would become costlier. Uh, when we break it down to such level, do you think that in our day-to-day lives it is going to have a much larger impact?
A great question. I think perhaps in our day-to-day lives, things may not have much impact. There could be some. You see, I mean, okay, whiskey will get cheaper because India has already reduced
Reduced.
our import duty on American liquor, right?
And
In
that was
bourbon.
a good gesture, I guess, that India
Yeah,
showed right after the
we
visit.
have, exactly. We have been doing that on bourbon whiskey, on Harley Davidson, on some other items as such. So these items probably are not, like mass consumer items. I would think that, it would affect more on a day-to-day basis. Where it will affect us more will be in terms of exports. Our industries, which are, exporting to the US, or even if not exporting to the US, but indirectly, like let's say the case of auto components. Now, yes, India doesn't export any finally made cars into the US, but our component manufacturers export some components to the US, but they export a lot more to Europe, Korea, Japan. And then those auto components are put into Japanese cars, which are then exported to America. Now, these tariffs will mean that Japanese cars with Indian components, but the Japanese cars will attract a higher duty. So the sales of those Japanese cars will go down, or German-made cars will go down. So therefore, our exports to even Europe and Japan, Korea, etc., in the case of auto components will come down. So in terms of day-to-day living, I'm just thinking No, you see, what we import from America, big picture, our bilateral trade is, I think, around $200 billion, 190 or whatever. But let's say 200 for a big picture. Out of this, $80 billion is business and services. So that is a side. So there is $120 billion of business between America and India in commodities, as you say, or goods. Out of these $80 billion, we export 80 billion and we import $40 billion worth of goods from America. Now, the 40 billion that we import are majorly more, I mean, actually going into oil, right? For example, LNG we are importing. So probably there will be some impact, but probably not much across the economy, I think, on that particular question that you have.
Absolutely, sir. No, my simple reference, and you have summed it up really well because this morning, for India it was morning, but for rest of the Americans it was a beautiful evening there in Washington. And some of our acquaintance said that this has happened, and we are not very sure how things would be impacted there in America and domestically, as you rightly mentioned in the beginning, that Donald Trump somehow has to make America great again, and he needs that money in the exchequer. He needs that money in the kitty. And yes, he is also soothing the sentiments of the people, those who are saying that a particular country has taken our jobs, particular country is taking our minerals, they are taking our products, they are charging us, our products are not reaching them. Even if they are, they're at a high price. Final question, Mr. Sachdev, that I wanted to ask you, and I see a book also in the background, Trumpotopia. How important it is for Donald Trump as of now to walk the talk, what he promised before the elections, and now which we see him on a spree signing all those presidential orders, imposing tariffs. Do you think he is on the right way of governance, or is it something that could finally come and catch up with him maybe later on, which he might regret?
Thank you so much. And of course, thanks for the gracious mention of the book Trumpotopia. In fact, I tried to answer some of this question there. What is the utopia that Trump wants to build? So the book is about decoding Donald Trump, the way he thinks, the way he acts, the way he decides. And then about one-third of the book is on strategies to deal with Trump and to negotiate with him. And believe me, there are ways to negotiate with him, even if we think that he is very unpredictable. Now, that said, in a big picture, what Trump is attempting, it could lead. There is a good chance. There's a decent chance. It's a gamble of a lifetime for him. And in the last 100 years, this is the most radical change in American policy, one would say. So at the end of this, America could come out as a shining golden eagle. Their national bird is eagle. So Sone ki chidiya, golden eagle. Right. Or America could end up in a train wreck. Okay, it could end up accomplishing many of the objectives. If you look on paper, I do think that a lot of it does make sense. See, with high tariffs, already you're having companies who are promising to, not only promising, will go and invest into America. They will set up jobs there, right? They'll be selling within America. There'll be more competition within America. In fact, this will suck away capital from other countries into America. You see, like even some large Indian company or large Taiwanese, TSMC, now talking about putting $100 billion in America for setting up a plant. Siemens talking about a $10 billion. Pfizer, Merck, now not looking to invest in some other third country, but saying we'll invest back in America. So this will bring investments in America. This will create jobs in America, no doubt. This will create a large kitty of tariffs. Actually, this tariff thing is a weird thing. It's just a play on words. Tariffs, when Trump is making it seem as if it's money which is coming from foreign governments and foreign companies. It is American money itself. So it's like robbing Peter. Trump is robbing Peter to pay Paul. He is collecting the money from the American companies and American consumers and then handing out that money separately as doles and as political favors and rebates and as income tax, cuts to create that impression, okay, that I am, managing this growth. So there is a chance, a reasonable chance, I would say, that he could succeed.
Okay. Okay. On that note, sir, thank you so much, Mr. Sachdev, for speaking to us. As the saying goes, the role of the government, the business of the government is to stay out of business. But Donald Trump, being a businessman himself, how long can he keep himself out of the business remains to be seen, but well explained. Thank you so much, Mr. Sachdev. And trust me, this is not the first time that we are speaking. There should be more conversations discussing the Trump card, I would say, when it comes to his ways, as you call it, gamble, maybe a maverick Trump that we all are seeing these days. Let's see. And definitely a game-changing exercise, and we'll keep a close eye on that.
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Don't miss out. Log on to oneindia.com for more updates.